It's Jürgen. We've had a bit of a dip, tough loss to Chicago and that draw in Colorado, but we still near the top of the East, and the fight's not over. The Hudson Derby against New York City is massive, and Seattle will test us too. Let's finish strong and take that momentum into the playoffs.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode number 59 of Red Bull KloppBot here on Sean Does FM with New York Red Bulls. I hope you're doing well and coming up today. We've got our last couple of games in the league season of the MLS already booked in for a playoff spot. Now we just need to see who will be taking on and how highly ranked we will be going in to those playoffs. A sneaky chance as well that we could pick up the Supporters' Shield, but unfortunately off the back of the end of last week, which if you did miss, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. We got knocked out quite early in the Leagues Cup, the quarterfinals on the eastern side by Cruz Azul, but then did go on to beat the Philadelphia Union in an MLS game. You can see there from the table that we are now in second in this Eastern Conference, but we could actually be on top if our form hadn't taken a little bit of a slump in our last couple of games that we have played before this first Hudson Derby that we're going to play here at the New York Red Bulls. Off the back of that 2-0 win over the Union, we did pick up a couple more wins, 3-1 against Toronto. Those guys absolutely rubbish goals there to MV Mooners, and aren't we late on that was off the back of a red card, so that was a little bit helpful to make sure we grabbed a cushion goal there after Schlegel did grab one back to make it 2-1 before halftime, and then we picked up a 3-0 win over St. Louis. To be fair, took a wee while for us to get the goal scoring going in this game again. A red card to our opposition quite late on off the back of that debut goal for Zach Garcia, someone that was signed from the academy here at the Red Bulls as a right back. Also, Birchmas came on, got a goal, and Aaron Zenta, he got off the mark as well. So a couple of quite impressive looking scorelines there, albeit performance-wise, felt like we could have done a little bit better. And then somewhat out of nowhere, albeit it was a midweek game, we got done by the Chicago Fire. Now, to be fair, during the intro to this episode, you would have seen a couple of big goalkeeping errors that Faber Flagerio did make for those second and third goals. The second one came out to punch it clear, didn't get there. It was an open net there for Vasquez to make it 2-0 off the back of an early goal there to Hull Selassie. And then just before halftime, he gifted the ball away with a pass that was supposed to be to Colin Moore. Didn't quite find him. One-on-one then was Invesson, and he put it past Frigerio. So he had an absolute shocker there with a 5.5. He grabbed a goal back relatively early in the second half for Zanotti, but then got two more ruled out for offside, and also quite early in that game, Vidas Saveljevic, he got injured as well. So that was a horrible day at the office. Our first loss in the MLS since coming here to the Red Bulls, and then a 0-0 draw against the Colorado Rapids off the back of that. So our form before our first Hudson Derby, as I said, honestly, not that impressive. But thankfully, we're still in second in the Eastern Conference. Actually, technically, not quite locked in yet for a playoff spot, but surely we'll be there with a 10-point gap over Charlotte FC, and with only 3 games left in the regular season. So we'll be in the playoffs one way or another. It just depends if we can jump above the Philadelphia Union, or if we're going to slide down and take on one of those teams in the bottom half of the table. And a big game, this one coming up for New York City, as they are right on the brink currently of going into one of those wild card playoff games. So that's a do-or-die game that they're currently in a position to be playing. Actually, a club with a slightly higher reputation than we have here at the Red Bulls. The manager likes a 4-2-3-1. Their captain, that is Nelson Insfran, who is an Argentinian goalkeeper. We'll check him out. He looks okay, but honestly, a little bit average, not too sure there why they've made him the captain. The vice captain is Sean Nealis, an American defender at 32 years old. So again, might just be choosing these players because of their age again. He looks pretty average and probably won't play this game either with an injury, so we'll skip past him. But the key player is Anthony, not that one. This one's American, a right winger come central attacking midfielder who can also do a job at left wing. To be fair, this guy actually looks quite good as a DP with 4.5-star current ability, and potential is wanted by Crystal Palace as well as a couple of Saudi Arabian clubs. But really, out of those 3 players, he's by far the most impressive. Fingers crossed here we can pick up a win in our first Hudson Derby of this save, albeit we are the walking wounded heading in to this game. If we go over to the medical centre, as you saw before, Vidas Saveljevic is out with pulled knee ligaments from that game that we did lose to the Chicago Fire. He's out for a further 7 days, so fingers crossed he'll be back in time for a playoff push, and might also be back to sit on the bench for our last game in the league season against Seattle, which will come back for second up in today's episode. Also, Baba Frigerio on international duty, so he wouldn't be playing this game anyway, but is also out for 1 to 3 days with a Gesh lower leg that came right off the back of that shocker against the Chicago Fire. So maybe that happened because one of his teammates had to go at him in the dressing room because that was a shocking performance. He's not playing for us at the moment with that injury and also international duty. And Jelmavink is also our star player here at the New York Red Bulls with some sprained ankle ligaments for 8 days to 2 weeks. I'm missing quite a few good players going to this game, MB and Vink in particular. And of course, our designated goalkeeper there in Frigerio. But to be fair, off the back of the effort against Chicago, can't say I mind that one too much, but covered up with that, if we go down on our squad sheet a little bit further, also missing Karaskia, Zhao Hongyu, and Kikanovic on international duty. So we are light on players going into this first game. In today's episode, you can see a couple of areas there where we've made some interesting selections. Also, Paul there in defensive midfield on a heavy workload is quite injury prone, so Callum Stiles gets a start over him. But as you can see, quite weak there in a few areas. James DeBio just coming back from injury, only recommended for 45 minutes. So it means we're quite weak there at goalkeeper, centre-back, defensive midfield, and on both wings. So certainly not the team I'd like to put out here for our first derby of the save, but fingers crossed we can get back on track off back of a couple of rough results in this derby from Yankee Stadium. And here are the team sheets for this first Hudson Derby of our time here at the New York Red Bulls. They're in New York City going with that 4-2-3-1 that their manager does quite like. Anthony, their key player, on the right-hand side. There's our very makeshift lineup. Pacheco in goal, Gladden more at centre-back, Styles in defensive midfield, and Hausawi and Leal on the wing. So quite a few changes there to our regular best 11, but hopefully we can pick up a win, which might actually see us go on top of the Eastern Conference. And we don't have to wait long at all here for the first highlight of this game. A throw for us here is just shy of the 5-minute mark. Styles plays that one in there for Leal, who goes down. Ismail there with a tackle. Fingers crossed this gets given as a penalty. It's been a little while now since we've scored a goal off the back of that 0-0 draw we did just have against Colorado, and thankfully VAR agrees that that's a foul. So a chance for us here through Renier, who thankfully is still at the club. It looked like there briefly he might have pulled that one a little bit wide, but thankfully it's a good finish there into the top left corner. It's exactly what we need off the back of our last couple of games, where we've been off just a little bit ever since that early barrage from the Chicago Fire, not helped out there by Frigerio in that game, but thankfully an early chance from the spot, which we put away and take a 1-0 lead. And it takes a fair while before the next highlight in this game, a free kick, but it is to us. We go far post, and Lenier gets himself on a hat-trick. So a good couple of highlights here during the first half of this derby. We've turned our form around at exactly the right time. Maybe that form did stem from some pre-derby nerves, but thankfully we've kicked off this first half quite well here. As I said, it took a little while between those highlights, but Renier picks up a double and makes it 2-0. And right off the back of that, we do have a free kick there. It was deep inside of our half, so deep the goalkeeper took it. Play a ball forward there to Rodrigo Muniz, who beats the goalkeeper an inch in, and he stayed onside. So a quick fire double, and already we might have put this New York derby to bed. We make it 3-0 just 10 minutes shy of halftime. Renier again with a big hand, a nice ball forward there to Gabriel Pirani, our trade that we did get, one of our big ones from the New England Revolution. He came in, of course, to replace Dela Cruz off the back of losing Allen at left back, just in case we did need to find an international designated player to replace him. Thankfully, we got Zenterin from Dallas instead, but that is a great first half from us so far here. Hopefully, that might do it for the first half. Stats-wise, honestly, it's not that one-sided, but as I say that, the stats now actually are pretty much double in our favour. Twice as many shots on target, and a much higher XG. So that overall is a very good first half from us here with this Red Bulls team. Thankfully, those injuries and players missing on international duty not hurting us at all. 3-0 up in this Hudson Derby. And only a couple of minutes into the second half, it looks like the momentum might carry on here into this part of the game, because again, we've got the ball here, albeit this time just inside of our half. Be fair, that didn't stop us there just before halftime with that goal, which Rodrigo Muniz did put away. Glad plays that one forward there to Pirani, and out there to Zanotti. So far, having a solid game. Looking for Muniz, doesn't quite find him, but thankfully get that ball back there through Hausawi. Bit of a tackle there as he tried to play a ball in field, but thankfully now get it down our left-hand side. Nice ball in there from Zenta to Muniz, but unfortunately a foot in there from a City defender, and it stays at 3-0. And going forward to the hour mark, and for the first time in this game, City here do have a highlight which might be in their favour. Bit of a missed here there inside the box, but they get that one back there through Alvarado. Goes looking for the top left corner, but thankfully Pacheco comes up with a good save on a green rank, so maybe he's trying to show up here for Guerrero to be quite an average use of one of those designated player spots. But now we're down the other end, ball over the top there for Rodrigo Muniz, who buries that in the bottom right corner, but unfortunately don't think that'll get him on a hat-trick because the assistant referee, top of screen, did put his flag up, and unfortunately, he was right. Still only 3-0. But still, so far, this has been a very, very impressive derby performance. Clearly offside too there from that ball from Callum Stiles. But Randall Leal, let's take him off here while we can for Birchmas make that sub, because Leal is currently sitting on a yellow card. So seeing as we're leading into the playoffs, would be ideal if we can not get any suspensions going into that time of the season. But now New York City are on the attack. Knocked the ball here just outside the box down that right-hand side. Thankfully, head that one away. But Williams gets that one back there for City. Nice ball over the top there for Alvarado. Squares that one for Yeboah, but big save again there from Pacheco. It might even be a chance for us here to do something on the counter-attack. Muniz finds Pirani there down our right-hand side. He just makes his way into the final third. Deflected cross, unfortunately, that falls into the hands of the City goalkeeper. Still 3-0 with 20 minutes left. And just to make way into the last 15 minutes of this game, so I think it's time for us here to make our last couple of subs to make sure all these players do get a rating off the bench. We'll take off Justin Glad here for Dubai, get some game time into him coming back from that injury. Also, I think here, let's take off some of our key players, considering this one looks pretty well under control. Edelman can come on there for Pirani. Also, Robinson, he can come on for Linier, sitting on a hat-trick. But to be fair, hasn't fed in for a farewell, and also Farfan can come on for Zenta. That's all our subs used. 3-0 with 15 minutes left. Albeit only a few minutes off back of those last couple of subs. Do have a highlight here from for us being on the halfway line. Play that one back there to Pacheco. So far, he's having a very good time here in this derby. Made a couple of important saves here so far in the second half. But to be fair, it looks like still that first half going to be quite costly there for New York City. Looking for a ball over the top there for Muniz, but unfortunately can't quite get to it before Insfran does claim that one. He pumps it deep. We should have won that one back, but Yeboah does get in behind. He's pretty much one-on-one with the keeper, but thankfully hits that one straight at him. So another save there for Pacheco, albeit that time you'd expect him to make it. They have the corner. We clear it somewhat. A good foot in there too from Rodrigo Muniz to clear that danger. Rodriguez, though, is back on the attack, but it looks like that might be it for this highlight as we snake our way to the last 10 minutes of this game. You can see stats-wise now, New York City have well and truly evened this game up. In the second half, a chance there for Colin Moore at the near post. The big lad looked like he might score his first goal for the club. Unfortunately, can't quite do it. And now, a good chance here on the counter-attack for City, but thankfully, nice foul in there from Birchmas on Anthony, albeit we will still see this free kick. It is a wee way out though, and Alvarado might try and put this one down to the top right corner. He does, and it just goes wide. Might even clip the post. That one did get quite close to needing effort. That one from Pacheco. We pick up a couple of yellow cards in this game. We'll just get Birchmas here to ease off tackles. Stats-wise, as I said, has really evened up in the second half, but thankfully, New York City have not beaten our defence, in particular Pacheco, who's had a really good game here with that absence of Frigerio, which to be fair, would have happened either way with that injury that he picked up, but that is a very good bounce back win off the back of those last couple of results that we did have. A double to Renier, helped out early on there by the penalty, which City did give away, and quite shortly off the back of that second goal, Muniz made it 3-0. To be fair, New York City were well and truly all over us in that second half, but thankfully couldn't quite find a way to score a goal. As I said, overall stats from that game in the end were quite even, but thankfully when we were on the front foot, we made it count there in the first half and pick up what looks like a pretty comfortable 3-0 win. But as I've said a few times now, that second half, they did come back at us. That does mean that we have now officially secured a playoff spot. For some reason, Philadelphia is still above us, even though our goal differential is a little bit better, but certainly in for a chance of topping this Eastern Conference going into the playoffs. And before we take on Seattle in our final game of the league season, here's the highlights from our trip to Vancouver. These guys not doing too well, and thankfully got a good result here as well. A ball there through to Hausawi, thankfully put it away despite the efforts there of Vancouver. 1-0 up there at halftime, and then we scored from a corner quite early in the second half. A few minutes later, nice ball over the top there I think that was from DeBio to Zentner and put away by Rodrigo Muniz. That made it 3-0. Then Moore gave away a penalty, which Lemons there put past Pacheco, who went the wrong way, but only a few minutes later, we well and truly wrapped this one up on the attack there, and Callum Stiles off the bench picks up a goal and makes it 4-1. So a very good result for us there against Vancouver. In fact, it was Colin Moore who scored from that set piece finally. Our big lad, over 2 metres tall, does score a goal. As I said, did give away a penalty only a few minutes later, but thankfully a relatively comfortable 4-1 win. So we're picking up our form here at the back end of this MLS season off the back of those games leading in to today's episode. Unfortunately, despite that, we cannot pick up the Supporters' Shield, because we'll go over and have a look at that. We just left a little bit too late. In particular, that loss to the Chicago Fire did put pay to our chance, as well as that draw off the back of that against Colorado, because Real Salt Lake have wrapped it up. They've got a game in hand. Dallas and Philadelphia have already played their final match of the league season, and we have 5 points behind them. So Real Salt Lake from the Western Conference do pick up the Supporters' Shield. We'll see what they can do, though, in the playoffs, because maybe they've benefited from being over in the Western Conference, because when we took on those Western Conference teams, including those guys, we did pretty well against them. So maybe this season, the Eastern Conference is quite a bit stronger than the West, but unfortunately can't quite pick up the Supporters' Shield. That'll definitely be a goal here next season when we've got a full season in charge here at the New York Red Bulls. But in terms of the Eastern Conference, we are still in, I think, with a chance of topping it now. Obviously, we didn't go above Philadelphia before we joined on points with them, so maybe it still won't happen, but only 3 points behind them with a much better goal differential. To be fair, they have won one more game than us, so maybe that's the deciding factor. Should probably actually check that before we say that we can go above them. Let's just see here what the difference maker is in terms of that sort of stuff. And indeed, it is games won before goal differential. So to be fair, the best we can do here is stay in second place. But as you can see, in behind Philadelphia, who these days are definitely going to be the top seed in the Eastern Conference going into the playoffs, there's a few teams who could overtake us. Orlando, Nashville, Columbus, and DC United. They could all go above us if they pick up a win in this next game. To be fair, DC United, a bit unlikely. They'd end up with the same amount of wins as us, and also their goal differential not quite as good. So we should only drop as far down as 5th if we don't pick up a win here against Seattle. But it's a bit of a big game, this one. Try and keep ourselves near the top there of that Eastern Conference and get a bit of a weaker team when we make our way to the first round of the playoffs, which is a best of 3 tie. So that could be quite interesting as well. We'll see how we get on there in that first round of the playoffs. And also from 7th down to 12th, all in with a little bit of a sneaky chance as well of making your way into that wild card game. So it's a fair bit going on here in behind Philadelphia in the Eastern Conference. But we take on a team from the West in this next game. That's Seattle. They're already guaranteed to be playing some part in the playoffs. They're currently down in 6th in that Western Conference. To be fair, they're already safe to be making their way into it. Won't drop down into a wild card game. So to be fair, a bit less on it for these guys compared to us, because I don't think they can make their way up those rankings quite as far as we can drop down. Their manager is Dean Smith, of all people. These days would have been in the MLS for a fair while. I'm pretty sure, though, started off at a different club indeed. Charlotte FC somehow ended up at Inter Miami in 2024-25, then here at the New York Red Bulls before he got sacked, before we took over, and has joined Seattle. So to be fair, a bit of heat in this one as we take on one of the former managers of this team. And also, he did spend a fair while here as well. Their captain is Robert Belota, a German centre-back come defensive midfielder. Looks like a handy player, but certainly nothing too special, albeit must be partly American or have his green card, because he is not counted as an international, is currently wanted by the LA Galaxy. Their vice-captain is Matthias Vela, 33 years old, out of Argentina, but doesn't look too hot, truth be told, there with that ability and those attributes. But their key player, that would be their goalkeeper, in Nathan Baxter, 30 years old, is the former Bolton and Hull City man. Before then, did spend a fair while at Chelsea as well. Certainly quite a good goalkeeper for the MLS, but fingers crossed we can beat him a few times in this game leading in to the playoffs. Keep up that good form that we've found in our last couple of games. Thankfully, we come to this one with just one injury concern. MB came back from injury and got injured again in training. So unfortunately, he's out for a further 1 to 4 days, won't feature, but hopefully he'll get fit when we do make our way into those playoffs. Because as we saw in the group stage of the Leagues Cup, this guy is quite good when he's fit. So let's hope that'll be the case going into those playoffs. But everyone else is back from their injuries as well as international duty, albeit a few players are sitting on yellow cards. So we're not going to risk them here in this last game of the league season. Make sure we've got a full squad available for that first round of the playoffs. But fingers crossed we can keep ourselves in second spot with a win over Seattle. And here are the team switch for our last game here of the MLS League season against Seattle. Now, a couple of changes, as I said, with players sitting on yellow cards. So aren't we at right back? Garcia from our academy on the bench. Also, Glad's in there alongside DeBio at centre back, with Vink coming back from injury and recommended for 45 minutes. Also, going to try here Edelman as a balling midfielder with both styles, as well as Paul sitting on yellow cards, and also Birchmus at left wing with Leal on a yellow card situation as well. So hopefully we'll get through this game pretty well without those guys. Manage to pick up a couple of points and make sure we stay in that second spot. And so far, there's been one of the most boring first halves we've ever seen in the MLS so far. In this game, there's been one shot overall. It wasn't on target. Thankfully, it was from us, and we got a second one off quite late there just before half-time. But it's still 0-0. We're going to make a sub here at the half, because aren't we on a 6.3, and did pick up a yellow card to Zach Garcia, who you did see score in the lead-up to today's episode on his debut. Pretty sure that was that game against St. Louis City. He can come on, fingers crossed. He gets the job done there. Also debating if we should take off Birchmus, but we won't leave him out there because Kikanovic definitely not a natural left winger. But so far this game has been as boring as anything. Fingers crossed we get some highlights in the second half. As nothing's happened, it's still 0-0. And thankfully there's been a few more shots here in the second half in our favour, but still it's 0-0 with no highlights. But it's time to make another sub because Birchmus is struggling on a 6.3. We'll see what Kikanovic can do there at left wing. Also concerningly, Garcia on a yellow card, but so far nothing's happened, still 0-0. And just about to make our way into the last 15 minutes of this game, and it is still 0-0 somehow. We're going to make a sub here, take off DeBio coming back from injury. That would be for Yalma Vink, so hopefully he can get some game time into him before the playoffs. And also, while we're here, we might actually try Callum Styles in the ball wing midfield role instead of Edelman, who's having a little bit of a fair game out there on a 6.6, but still waiting for anything to happen in this game that we actually see. So it's locked up at 0-0. And it's taken until 75 minutes, but finally there's a highlight in this game of round for us here inside the final third. Now Karaskia there does go down, but I dare say that one might have been just outside the box. So I dare say this first highlight is a bit of a waste of time, and indeed that is the case. VAR confirms it's no penalty, albeit we do see the free kick. Zinta there does go far post, but unfortunately that one goes well over the bar. And it is still 0-0 with only 12 minutes left. Off the back of that, Karaskia drops down to a red Hearts with our final sub, Halsawi. He can come on, to be fair, did a pretty good job while Karaskia was away on international duty. And just off the back of that, we do have a thrown again inside the final third. Zinta goes looking for that top left corner. It comes off the woodwork. We put it back there into the mix of it. Baxter can make a pretty easy save. And it's still 0-0 with only 5 minutes left. Going to be quite tempted soon to go attacking. In fact, we'll do that now, albeit as we do that, there is a highlight, and Seattle for the first time might be on the attack, but thankfully Garcia there with a good foot, albeit Halsawi with a really poor giveaway there. So not ideal there from our right winger coming off the bench. We've got a few tired players out there too, so Seattle could actually make the most of that. Thankfully though, Zinta gets that ball, which had a bit too much on it. Now Vink plays that one out there to Garcia, goes back, tries to play that one to Vink. It's a poor ball though, but thankfully Seattle try and link up. They give it away, but then Vink with another poor giveaway, so looking a bit rusty here at the back. Garcia goes down, doesn't get that ball. They play that one there near post, and thankfully either a save or it comes off the woodwork. Frigeri actually might have made a decent save for the first time in a little while. It goes back there to their defence. Let's just see if this highlight will continue. Indeed it does. Nice ball over the top there too for Laver, but thankfully sneaky foot in there does disrupt things, and Frigerio can come out and claim it. We make our way into 5 minutes of added time. And honestly, probably could just skipped over that game because very little happened. A few chances late there. Obviously that penalty that wasn't given, quite rightly so, but a big chance late there for Seattle. Thankfully, we just did enough to stop them from scoring. It's a 0-0 draw. So now it's time for us to go forward and see exactly who we're going to get in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure all the teams should be playing here on this final day, mostly at the same time. They usually have a thing on Apple TV called Decision Day to see who's playing who and who makes their way into that wildcard game. So we'll go forward, tell them, honestly, not that bad a performance, fingers crossed to do a bit better in the playoffs, because stats-wise, we did have more shots overall. We do drop down to third because Orlando City did pick up a win, and that currently means we'd take on Nashville, but they've still got a game in hand for some reason, so unfortunately, not too sure quite yet who we're playing. It could be Nashville, but not too sure, depends how they get on in their final game. And for some reason, to go all the way forward to Wednesday before our first round clash did get locked in there for the playoffs. There's the results that we got up to there on that day where we had that very boring 0-0 draw against the Seattle Sounders. As you can see, that does mean we find ourselves in fifth there on the Supporters' Shields. To be fair, we're still a wee way behind Real Salt Lake, but that's definitely the aim for next season. But to be fair, not too bad for us there, finishing third in the Eastern Conference, considering we were 14th when we did join back off the back of our Champions League win with RB Leipzig. But going down further, a couple of results which do change things off the back of our game, which was at 6 o'clock. Inter Miami lost 1-0 to LAFC. That's not too important. Nashville, only a draw against the Portland Timbers, but it is a point, so that did see them go above the Columbus Crew. As you can see, they're over on the right-hand side. Also, Vancouver, they did draw with the New England Revolution. So if we go and have a look at the actual stages from the competition this year, you can see there's a wild card game. Charlotte take on Chicago. So to be fair, Chicago, the only team to beat us so far in the MLS this season, they have to go through a wild card game, a one-off game. We'll see how they get on in that one. On the western side, that wild card game between St. Louis City and the Houston Dynamo. So those are the two wild card games here in both conferences. But going back to all the groups, we did finish third, but Nashville made their way up to fifth with that draw. So it does mean a bit of a tasty tie for us here in the first round of the playoffs. We take on the team who beat us, of course, in that Leagues Cup game in the group stages with a penalty shootout, and also who we drew with in our only previous MLS game against them a couple of days before that. We're going to take on the Columbus Crew. So that's actually quite a tasty matchup there for us in the first round of the playoffs. As I said earlier, it's a best of three series, so I don't think we're going to show all three games in one episode. What I'm probably going to do is play the first game off camera, which will be at our home ground, because obviously with us being higher seeded, we do have the advantage. If it goes to a do or die game, it will be at the Red Bull Arena. Of course, in real life, this is where Inter Miami, after walking their way to the Supporters' Shield this season, got knocked out by Atlanta United. So it's definitely no given you get through these playoffs here, even though you have been one of the higher ranked teams, especially with our record so far this season against the Columbus Crew, and especially because if it's all locked up after a game, you go straight to penalties. That decides who wins each league. So we could be in here for a tricky time in this first round of the playoffs against John Herdman's Columbus Crew. You can see there he likes a 5-3-2. We'll definitely have a better look at these guys before we come back for that next episode, but that's who we've got in the first round of the playoffs. And if we go over to the data hub, previous meetings, those last two since we've been there, are 1-1 draw both times, but they did beat us in that penalty shootout. And also, these guys knocked us out as well of the US Open Cup, albeit that was before we got here. So to be fair, it's been a fair while in game since the New York Red Bulls have been Columbus, but fingers crossed we can get the job done in tomorrow's episode in that first round of the MLS playoffs. Also a quick look as well at what's going on in terms of the western side of things in terms of the playoffs as well. Just bring that up quickly as we wrap things up for today's episode, but that for some reason hasn't been drawn yet. So we'll go back and show you what's going on there. In our first round, we've got Columbus. Fingers crossed we can make our way past them in a best of three series. But hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode there, wrapping up the final stages of the league phase of the MLS. If you did, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. Until next time I see you for the first round of the playoffs against the Columbus Crew. Fingers crossed we get past them nice and easy and it doesn't go down to a decider. But until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.